So I got a comment on my YouTube page this morning, and I get these comments multiple times a week. But I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to address it and say some things I haven't said in a video. The comment said, "Acknowledge the allegations against you. Stop being a coward. If they're true, then take responsibility for them. If they're not, then make a greater effort to defend your image. Innocent people don't sit quietly and hope the awful things people say about them will go away." So I wrote a response to that comment, which I'm going to read out loud for you. Hi, I think you're misinformed. I've acknowledged the allegations dozens of times over 4 years, spoken in them in depth for 3 hours on a widely listened to podcast that I also posted the first part of for free to my YouTube, written 3 essays about them. I don't understand what more is being asked of me. I'll do it again here now, though, and in this YouTube video. I'm a person who has made many terrible mistakes in relationships and who is deeply sorry to the people I've hurt. Going away from what I wrote here, 4 years I had awful, messy relationships and where I was a toxic partner. And this spread to even my casual relationships. This was just about the way I treated people. I was never, in the discussion about me and in public shamings, they want people to either be a sociopathic narcissist predator or a totally innocent ally. And the truth is, I'm not a sociopathic narcissist predator, but through my life, I understand why people hate me enough to say that. I have made serious mistakes with the way I have treated people, especially people who are close to me in romantic relationships. And it has cost me people I've really loved. People I loved, I alienated and hurt. And I lost them in my real life years before my shaming. I lost friends. When you have a toxic pattern of behavior, especially like I did, especially in my sort of 20s and my very early 30s, before I realized without being publicly shamed that I needed to turn my life and my behavior around. You learn lessons not from the internet, not from strangers telling you you're a monster, but from losing people you love. And that has happened to me, and I own that. When we talk about like the scatological details of these relationships, the blow by blows, I don't feel comfortable discussing that in public because it's not something I'm proud of. And it's ugly. I was an unbelievably toxic presence to certain people in my life and just deeply selfish and myopic. And I get why certain people really hate me. But the majority of them are not in my public shaming. My public shaming, the Daily Beast article specifically, is some of them are from people I don't know or have never met. The story about me from college is not true. It's not supported by the digital record. But I should go into the allegations that are real now. So I'm going to go back to reading. My most serious allegations are from over 11 years ago. They involve a relationship I was in for over 2 years where I was a toxic partner. I've discussed this in depth in public beyond anything I've ever been comfortable with. It's awful. And I was 25, unmedicated and just unbelievably selfish and horrible to my partner. I treated her, I wasn't the white trash idea of like the redneck, you're a dumb bitch, you can't do anything. It was just more that I didn't care about her feelings and I cheated on her constantly. And then I would break up with her and we'd get into these long screaming fights. And then she'd come back to me and I'd go back to her and then we'd get in another screaming fight and then we'd get drunk and she'd be sobbing at a party. And I just did not treat her with any kind of respect. And that was someone who I loved. When that ended, I was like, I was heartbroken because, selfish guys, people talk a lot about like mid-white men or fuckboys or toxic people or abusers. Most of those people are not cackling, manipulative, Machiavellian narcissists. They're people in a state of emotional turmoil, dealing with things like borderline or patterns in relationships that are just deeply unhealthy that they've learned. And I was one of those people. I don't have borderline, but a lot of my behavior in that time was just deeply immature and hurtful and awful. And not just to her. Uh, now, that person is someone who I've actually apologized to many times in person. You have to keep in mind this is 11 years ago, and we had a 5-year friendship 2 years after we dated, during which I apologized many, many times, and I'm still deeply sorry to them. But at this point, she has continued for years after she shamed me to bring me up in public, to bring me up on her social media, to make Twilight Zone accident jokes, to say I'm untalented, things that don't feel connected to my memories of how I hurt her. And she said she didn't realize how bad it all was until 10 years later, and she was writing it all down. Well, I still, the accusations go beyond what I'm able to address. There are other people in my life I feel I've hurt worse than her, who I wish I could apologize to in person. But the idea of confronting them publicly on the internet with some sort of forced fake apology is a performance, and it's not something I'm comfortable with. Even this, to me, is a degree of performance. You probably know my energy. My energy is different from most of my videos. That's because this is sort of how I am when I'm not telling a story. The idea that, oh yeah, I'm still asked to address the other claims in the article from another girlfriend who basically says I was a jerk and an asshole. I don't like that person. I don't want to apologize to her because her actions within that relationship and after and towards people I love have been unconscionable. And I haven't spoken about them because I don't want to do Darvo. I don't want to be like, that's a bad person. And also, she doesn't accuse me of violating her consent at all. She just basically says I'm a jerk. I think she's a jerk. And then another person says that we hooked up and that she consented at the time, but later she felt bad about it. I believe that. I know that person. We've talked about that in depth. And, you know, there are other people in my life, when I think of people I've hurt in this way, there are other people I think of. And we're not talking about consent here. We're just talking about pushing people and hurting people and ignoring people's boundaries socially, emotionally, physically. In my 20s, I was just an asshole. And, you know, I was never like a goblin monster, you know, there's a video made by someone who hates me where they compare me to Weinstein. And at this point, there's nothing I don't want to get into that, but there's nothing I can say. When someone says you're a monster, I've said this again and again, what are you going to say? I'm not a monster. That's what a monster would say. I should add here, the people who hate me most vehemently publicly are people who haven't spoken to me in up to over 5 years, or people I've literally never met. A lot of them are people I don't know that well. So the biggest mouthpieces of my shaming are not actually people I've wronged. They're people who have no intellectual curiosity about the ways I've changed, who have repeatedly said they view me as a subhuman ghoul. The apologies I have to make are to people in my real life, right? The apologies I've made are to people in my real life, not to strangers, and not to people who view me as subhuman and who use their massive platforms to continue to push me down and attack me after someone tried to kill me, after female friends of mine have been harassed and even attacked, after my family has been harassed. It's gone so far, and this isn't me playing the victim, but this is me trying to explain why I don't address it this way, is because even when I write essays about it, even when I talk about it in depth, literally those people will, without really engaging with anything I say, stomp me down further. And I don't want to talk to them. I know some of them. I know they're beyond, that they kind of enjoy this and the dynamic we now have, where I'm this crushed thing where no apology will ever be enough. And I still am here apologizing, even though I know even this will probably be weaponized and ignored, or weaponized and ignored, or ignored. So that's a weird aspect of it. When certain rich white men talk about the Matrix being real, I can't speak to them. You know, a lot of people who've been canceled manage to just sort of continue to have a career because they're so famous. I'm a screenwriter. I can't do that. My platform has been shrunken down to nothing, and the people who hate these platforms are still enormous. So that's another reason why I don't talk about it publicly. I just wanted to add that, because I think when people say the Matrix is real, what they really mean is people who you don't know and who you can't control turn on you, and then they're locked in that position, and you're not a human being to them anymore. Again, someone tried to kill me. I've been physically attacked, and it doesn't, no matter what I say, it doesn't seem to matter. Now, it goes without saying that it's been 11 years. I've done a tremendous amount of work on myself in the intervening years. You've probably noticed if you watch me, even my online presence has changed because I've done a tremendous amount of therapy and I got medicated. There are people, I've had opportunities in the 5 years since the first shaming to apologize and to make things right with people I really feel I've hurt. And there are some people I know will never talk to me again. And they'll never talk to me again. And they're right. What can I say? They're right. I don't blame them. But then there are other people I've had the opportunity to like make things right with in person because they didn't participate in this sick internet thing. But I don't want to be victim right now. I just want to, I've had so many incredible experiences in the last 5 years since I was canceled like a TV show, because I'm entertainment and I'm not a person. The purpose of propaganda is to effectively make people view another person as not human, but I am human. And the truth is people change. And, you can say I've changed, but yeah, in 10 years, someone changes. I've changed. And I am and will remain deeply sorry to the people I've hurt in my life. And I'm just so sick of comments like that. It's so befuddling because it's like, I don't know. I now use my YouTube channel. I'm a storyteller. I now use this YouTube channel, which is barely watched, to put out my art. And the continual idea of me as a celebrity who needs to apologize and participate in the narrative, it exists alongside the truth, which is that in my life, I have been working relentlessly in therapy and programs for 10 years since before I was shamed to become a better and more honest and more valuable person who exists less at the expense of people around him. And that's just true. So that's where I'm at. And the strangest thing is that the cancellation didn't stop me from dating. I've still had relationships in this time. I've still fallen in love once or twice. And the main thing it stopped me from doing was writing movies. Even though I'm still friends with a lot of the people in the industry, they just sort of pretend that I don't exist anymore. Because they're afraid of people who don't know me and who don't know them. But I wrote an essay about that. I wrote an essay about public apologies. And I did do this podcast where I talk about my life and the things that led to this situation. There's only one person in my shaming who I'm not sorry to. And it's because I'm not sorry to them. Because I feel like they're being dishonest and it makes me furious. And it's one of the most impotent things you can ever experience is that. But everyone else, I eat it. I don't know what else to say. Thank you for watching this. I'm going to go back to doing more 2,000 views wrestling content soon. Big giant videos coming, big giant art videos, really nuts fan fiction stuff. Thank you and have a great day.